What's cracking, everybody? XehrFelrose here, bringing you some Pokemon Go battling content. In today's video, we're taking a look at a strong team in the Great League Remix as we look to finish out the rotation. We've only got a couple days left, but if you're looking for a last-minute team to climb, you could do much worse than running this Shadow Magnezone team. I got the team off of Twitter from HouseStark, another Twitch streamer, content creator as well. If you don't watch him, you should go check him out. He's a really good battler, and his teams typically work really well. They kind of suit my playstyle, so whenever I see him post a good team, I like to give it a try. And this one went off all positive sets with this team, up to about 2,800 elo with the team, now getting closer to Legend, just hopped over the expert range. But with Shadow Magnezone, you know, it ignores typing, so we are going to be absolutely cooking with this thing. And we have a Mantine in the back being able to deal with the fighters and ground types for the most part, except for things like Ufisk, which I'll tell you, my first game with this team that I didn't remember to record was against Unova and Stunfisk. It just ripped me a new one, and there was no way. Aerial Ace and Water Pulse on the Mantine is because you want to be able to hit those ground types, and Aerial Ace is just a need to have move because we have to be able to deal with things like Poliwrath and other fighters. And then finally, our safe swap on this team is going to be Deoxys with Thunderbolt. I did run it for a few games with Rock Slide, but I just felt like overall Thunderbolt's better in this format in the safe swap because you're going to draw out things like Jellicent, or maybe even some other flyers potentially that resist the counters. There are a couple of times where I would have preferred Rock Slide, where if I saw a Gligar in the back that counter swapped in Deoxys, I would have wished I had Rock Slide, but that's okay. Either way, we're going to get into this games here because this team is super strong and I cannot recommend it enough. Again, if you guys are looking for a last-minute team to climb here in the Great League Remix, I could really recommend this team. So we're going to get a lead here against a Shadow Dragonair. It's pretty neutral for the most part. Both of our charge moves in the Mirror Shot and Aqua Tail are neutral, and our fast moves are all resisted. So I'm going to stay in here, go for the back-to-back moves here. This is going to be a Mirror Shot. I'm going to only throw back-to-back if they let one go. But they shield the first one here, so I'm actually going to look to go for the Wild Charge. The opponent swaps. Again, 5 Volt Switches is going to get you a Mirror Shot and a Wild Charge back-to-back. Now, I'm going to come in with my own Deoxys because I'm ahead on energy, and I have a huge HP advantage, or not ahead on energy, but I have a huge HP advantage. The opponent would need 3 moves to knock me out here, and I only need 1. So I'm going to go for this Thunderbolt. We're going to knock out this Deoxys. They're not looking to give up their other shield. And the beauty of it is that because Deoxys has such a high defense stat, it can tank moves very well. So I can let this move here go and continue to either farm or throw a Psycho Boost, excuse me, if I need to, right before going down. So I'm going to go for the Psycho Boost here. This is going to force the final shield, or the opponent's going to let their Dragonair go, and they decide to go for the final shield, which is really nice. I'm coming in with my Mantine here because it can tank a move and it won't force me to shield. The opponent now comes in with Registeel. I'm going to bank a Water Pulse for later, and I'm going to go for a swap here into my Magnezone. After playing this matchup once before, I know how much damage the Wild Charge does, and thankfully we don't get the debuff. So I'm going to go for 2 of these Volt Switches, and then I could go for a 3rd one before they get to another move as long as they threw right away. But what I'm going to look to do here is I should have gone for 1 additional Volt Switch and then the Mirror Shot. That's what I should have done, because it would have gotten me more energy. But either way, it kind of works out. Just, it really depends on when I wanted to knock out, but the opponent concedes, and that is a good game. Getting into the next game, Shadow Magnezone against Jellicent. This is a good lead, but the thing is that the opponent can just outpace me here. So the opponent comes in now with a safe swap Gallade, and I take advantage of the fact that they're running Psycho Cut by going for 2 Volt Switches and then swapping into my Mantine. Now, in hindsight, I think that I could have no-shielded this and farmed down because now I'm going to be able to go for 4 wing attacks before they get to another move. So I could have lived that, I think, but I didn't want to risk it. I figure I can dump all this energy into the Jellicent, and they're going to be forced to throw a charge move to get rid of my Mantine at this point. So at this, realistically, right now, it's just hopefully whatever's in the back is weak to Deoxys, because if you have a Ghost on the lead, you may expect the opponent to perhaps maybe run something that's weak to, you know, Psychic or Fighting in the back. So we'll see what we'll see what they're going to have back there. Because they swapped immediately, I'm prone to thinking that they probably have another answer for Magnezone in the back, and because they let this go, they're saving 2 shields for whatever they have back there. We're going to bring in the Magnezone, but the opponent doesn't swap. They try to go for another move, and in comes Typhlosion. That is definitely an answer for the Magnezone. Now, the opponent should have just swapped immediately. And that would have made me have a much different situation here, because I wouldn't have been able to get to these two moves. Or at least I wouldn't have been able to the Wild Charge, force the shield, and now I can swap in my Deoxys and go for the Psycho Boost. This team is absolutely destroying people today. Very good game, and I respect the Typhlosion Spice. I love Shadow Typhlosion. We pick up a mirror lead in this next game here, and this is tricky, because if you land the Wild Charge, you win the lead. Now, I'm going to go for a 5 here. I want to be able to throw back-to-back moves, and now the opponent's going to go for a Mirror Shot, which I shield. And I also get the attack drop, which is really unfortunate. They're going to get an extra Volt Switch because I threw my move right away here, and then they're no-shielding it. They're calling my bait, and now I'm calling them to maybe go for another Mirror Shot, but they're not going to do it. They're going for the Wild Charge, and that's going to hurt. And so I come in with my Deoxys. The opponent has a Shadow Hypno in the back, which is... I haven't seen a Shadow Hypno in a long time, but I love it. I used to love running Hypno and Double Dark, the old Vergiverge signature team, is the word. I'm going to go throw as many Thunderbolts as I can here. Genuinely, my only hope here is that maybe I can get some shields and Mantine can land a Water Pulse or something. I feel like I'm in a bad spot here, and I mean, you can probably tell, just because you're watching this, you can probably tell I'm in a very bad spot. I'm going to go for the Thunderbolt here. I'm hoping this gets a shield. The opponent doesn't want to send their Magnezone back in here, so I would be able to see their third, hopefully. And it's a Mantine. So I'm going to go up to nearly their Aerial Ace. The opponent doesn't... I try to catch a move. Hopefully that was the way to do it. But the opponent's just going to be able to swap in. I'm going to call the Mirror Shot here. And it is a Mirror Shot. However, the opponent has 2 shields. They certainly could just save them for their Mantine. But I'm going for the Aerial Ace, hoping for 1 shield, and they let it go, and I'm like, nah, dude, I'm good. I'm good. So the opponent played that very well. They read me like a book, and sometimes, like, you get those games where either the opponent's in your head or it feels like they just know what you're going to do. But either way, they played that very well. Now, my opponent tries to catch... No, I don't know what... They weren't trying to catch, but, like, they were safe swapping into the Carbink. This team is incredibly weak to Magnezone, and I can tell already. So I'm going to go for 2 more Volt Switches before they get to that Rock Slide. Charge Attack priority tie here, which they definitely lose. I'm going to go for a Mirror Shot. This will knock out from the range that they're at. And now the opponent has a choice to make. Do they come back in with the Empoleon? Yes, they do. I don't know. But I know they had 5 when they left, so this is number 6. That's their Hydro Cannon. They're going to need another 6 to get to the move. It's up to us if we can farm down, and we get the farm down perfectly here. The opponent has a Jelly in the back. This is terrible for them and great for us, because the Mantine, honestly, with the shield that we've got left for it, will easily be able to handle Jellicent when it has no shields. The opponent is forced to shield both these Wild Charges. I'm going to go straight into the Mantine here, and I'm going to... Honestly, my thinking at this point is I can just save a shield for Deoxys to land a Thunderbolt or Psycho Boost at the end of the game here. I actually don't need to shield my Mantine whatsoever. So we're going to go for this Aerial Ace. That is going to do some chip damage, and that's all we're doing. We're just chippy choodle down the... Chippy Turtle down the Jellicent here to the end of the game and see, you know, just how low we can go. I mean, the opponent's going to go for a Shadow Ball at this point. Like I said, I'm just going to let this go. I could even come in with my Magnezone and get 1 Volt Switch through, as they would need a couple of moves and they just concede. So that's going to be a good game. Well played. Wild, they're triple weak to it, though. In the next game, we have Arctibax on the lead. I haven't seen an Arctibax in a long time, but it's a very strong pick in this meta, I think, as long as you can keep it off of things like a Alolan Ninetales. But I'm going to go for the Mirror Shot here. This will do plenty of damage to this Arctibax. And then I'm going to safe swap into Deoxys here, because this whole team has play against Arctibax. The opponent is going to fire off an Icy Wind before probably dipping out. They're not going to let their Arctibax go here. And then they're going to bring in an Empoleon. And at this point, I'm like, is this team triple weak to fighting? I don't know. But their best answer to Empoleon, or to Deoxys, was Empoleon. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to shield this up here. I see value in my Deoxys if this was their best counter swap. And so I'm just going to see what they have in the back here. So the opponent's waiting out their switch clock. They want to try to make use of it. They'll probably try to catch on the Arctibax, and their best answer was a Poliwrath. So yes, this trainer was triple weak to Deoxys. And some teams are like that. Some teams, you know, they say they completely bank and go like, you know what? I can't beat everything. I'm going to choose one thing to be weak to, and that's it. But man, it feels good when we can get the Pokemon that they're triple weak to, because Lord knows it happens to me. Like I said, my first game with this team was against Unova. Maybe I said this is the second time I've had to try to record this, but I was forced up against a Unovan Stunfisk in the first game I played with this team. Just picked up the team, Unovan Stunfisk, and I didn't even see their third. I safe swapped into Deoxys, and they had like Jellicent or something, and I was just, I'm done. Anyway, good game to the opponent here. Well played. All right, moving into this next game here, we got Magnezone versus Shadow Gligar. This is, normally you would think this is a bad matchup for the Magnezone because of that ground typing on the Gligar, but the opponent has to land a dig here. I'm going to go ahead and shield because we've got a lot of energy. They're probably baiting me, as they almost always do. But we're going to be able to double up on wild charges here, and because the only fast move damage that they're doing is double resisted, I don't mind dropping my defense like this. But because they decide not to shield at all, I'm going to go ahead and swap into Deoxys and force them to either counter swap or throw the energy from that Gligar onto the Deoxys. Now they decide to go ahead and swap into a Mandibuzz here, which is a very effective counter, especially when we're not running Rock Slide, because the pacing is slightly worse here with Thunderbolt. But the opponent is actually going to... They're gonna go on charge attack priority. Like I would have expected them to go for one more here, but they're actually gonna let this go and save 2 shields for whatever's in the back. And I feel like whatever they have in the back must be good to save 2 shields for it. And they bring in the Gligar, trying so very desperately to get rid of my Deoxys. And I'm gonna let it go at this point. The opponent has 2 shields, but I've got a very healthy Magnezone and a very healthy Mantine. I'm gonna come in with my Mantine and look to farm down, but of course I get 1 turn lag. I only get 1 fast move when I should have gotten 2. And the opponent has a Ferrothorn in the back, which, to their credit, is definitely an interesting answer to Magnezone, given that they resist all of the energy from the Magnezone, but also I resist all of their energy, so I can let this first move go. But the thing is that Ferrothorn is significantly bulkier than Magnezone, and we do successfully catch the Thunder, which is good. And now I'm just going to start pumping out Mirror Shots because I want them to shield, and they don't. Them not shielding here to me is wild. Not Wild Charge, but I don't want to go for the Wild Charge yet. I want to at least try to build up to it. And I'm going to go for this Mirror Shot. Surely now they shield. They have to, right? They're in range of being taken out pretty much here. They do shield. I have to be careful of a catch, but here's the thing. And the reason why I'm throwing 1 and then the move instead of what I would normally do is throw 2 and then the move is because if I throw 1 and then the move, if they try to swap into Gligar, that damage might register on the Gligar, it might register on the Ferrothorn. It's hard to say. But either way, that's not going to be a good thing for them to do. So good game to them. I was just desperately trying not to get caught on. And speaking of getting caught with your pants down, we get an Obstagoon in the next game. The opponent stays in to chip with a Night Slash. I've already done significant damage to this Obstagoon already. Kind of wild that they're staying in. And then they come in with a Gligar, and this is where I really wish I had the Rock Slide, because the extra energy from the Rock Slide would probably help a lot. So I'm just going to start pumping out Psycho Boosts here. The first one's going to land, and I'm going to build up to nearly 2 before my attack is dropped completely. They get to a move, and they're going to throw it. I'm going to say, if you throw your dig, go for it. That's fine with me. So now I'm going to bring in the Magnezone. I can overfarm by a ton here if I spend 1 shield. The opponent probably just going to go for digs here at this point and try and force shields as they do. So I know that I should be able to go for at least 3 more Volt Switches if I want to, but I just to go for 2 just because I kind of forgot where their energy was at, to be honest. And I'm going to go for the Mirror Shot to get the knockout. And then I'm going to land a Mirror Shot here. I'm expecting them to shield this, right? Like most Pokemon that can't just tank a Wild Charge will shield at this point, so I'm going to go ahead and get the Mirror Shot debuff, and the opponent stays in. Now, it's going to be up to what's in the back here. Hopefully, Mantine can handle it. And we're going to see that it's their own Mantine, and this really feels bad, because now that I've taken this Night Slash, I'm not going to be able to... I'm not going to be able to flip this, because they've already basically dealt an Aerial Ace's worth of damage to me, and that basically nullifies the energy and shields and things that I have. So my hope here is that maybe I can try and get my Magnezone on this thing just long enough. But unfortunately, we do a charge attack priority tie, which is going to allow the clock to get to the point where they can bring in their Obstagoon against my Mantine. What I should have done here in hindsight is to come in with, or not say, I should say, I should not have come in, my goodness, my brain just had a stroke or something. The correct sequence was not to throw on charge attack priority, come in with Magnezone right away, and then hopefully have the energy after the time difference of the clock to throw the moves into the Obstagoon when it came in. That, I think, would have been a way to make that game winnable. But in this next game, we get a Goodra lead, and this is kind of awkward for us because the Goodra, excuse me, does hit us on charge attack priority, and it also resists all of our charge moves as far as wild charge goes. And the mirror shot, it doesn't have to worry about to its bulk. So we go ahead and safe swap into the Deoxys after spending a shield. The opponent cap ties us on the Goodra. The opponent going to come in with the Jellicent here. This is kind of risky here, but what I need to do is, again, the nice thing about this team, the backline is so bulky that I don't mind spending my second shield here if I know that I can get this farm down. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to shield up the Surf, and I'm going to go for the full farm down to this Jellicent. And I'm hoping that I can get there, but I kind of chicken out thinking I might not be able to make it. And so we're going to go just for the mirror shot to get the knockout here. And that's fine, because at this point, what we can do is we can go for a mirror shot before the Goodra gets to another move. And at this point, hopefully whatever's in the back is weak to Mantine. And it turns out that it is indeed a Gligar. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go for, again, doing the same thing as last time. I'm going to go for that mirror shot, hoping to get a shield and save some energy here. And then I'm going to build up to another wild charge, but the opponent immediately fires off their Aerial Ace here, not wanting to let me get there, which is fine because now I can come in with my Mantine, and all Mantine has to do here is land a Water Pulse. But the game's not over yet. They do have a shield, and it is a Shadow Gligar. It does hit pretty hard. They're going to need 3 moves to knock out, so I need to make sure that I can get this Water Pulse off before they can get to those moves. Now, I'm kind of unsure exactly where their energy's at. I'm not sure if they're throwing right away. In hindsight, I would have been able to figure it out, and I probably get to the Water Pulse before they get to their third Aerial Ace here, but I didn't want to risk it. Thankfully, they do shield, and we're able to get this Water Pulse off. This is going to knock out that Gligar, and that's going to be a good game. Well played to this opponent. Very close game. All right, we're getting into the next game here. We are going to have Magnezone on the lead versus Dragonite. This is a pretty neutral lead, only because look at how much damage those Dragon Breaths are doing. Like, our damage commands the shields, but their fast moves, despite being resisted, are going harder than ours are, which really, really sucks. So we're going to trade shields here, I expect. I'm going to go for this mirror shot and then probably swap out or continue farming with my Magnezone. But the opponent comes in with a Jellicent. And so what I'm going to do is go for 2 Volt Switches, because that's the good timing, and they won't get to a charge move. I'm going to go for the Mirror Shot, and then we're going to go for another Volt Switch. Now, I'm thinking I should probably shield this, because I'm very close to getting to another move here. And we're going to go for this Wild Charge, guaranteeing that we either huge damage or a shield here with this Wild Charge. The opponent shields it up. Now all shields are down. I'm going to go into my Mantine here. They come in with the Registeel, and this is a really bad matchup, unfortunately. If I had just let my Magnezone go down, I would have been in a much better position because I wouldn't be switch locked, and that was kind of my mistake. So now Deoxys gets to come in, but I was trying to go for the Aerial Ace to stall the clock a little bit. Not that it really would have mattered, but I might have been able to swap sooner, and then I'm gonna have to go with Deoxys on this one. Try and finish this game off. Hopefully land a Thunderbolt against the Jellicent before, but they do have a move ready. So I'm kind of forced to go for the Thunderbolt here and not drop my attack. But what I would have done here, in hindsight, looking back on it, maybe go for the Psycho Boost. Try to catch a move on this Magnezone, which I did here, but the opponent saw it coming, and then they just go for the charge move. So my hope was that they were going to throw right away to try to get me before I got to a move, but the opponent saw it coming and they played well, so good game. Getting into the next game here, we got Magnezone versus Carbink. This is the you love to see it lead. We get Carbink. The opponent swaps immediately into a Poliwrath. We're going to answer with the Mantine. Now, normally I do answer with Mantine, mostly because at this point, like, I can control this matchup unless the opponent decides to do a no charge on this Icy Wind for farm on the Mantine, or yeah, farm on the Mantine from the Carbink. Deoxys might be the correct answer here. The opponent goes ahead and doesn't bother throwing any fast moves here. It's very interesting. And they Icy when they no charge. So now at this point, I know what they're going to do is they're just going to go for farm on the Carbink, which, I mean, is fine overall, things considered. That, you know, I could hit back with some Water Pulses, but, like, after playing the other side of this matchup enough, Magnezone cannot tank a Moonblast from Carbink. it's surprisingly a lot of damage for it. So I have to be careful, and I even might have to shield this here. So we're going to go into the Magnezone. Opponent immediately sends in their Superior. I'm over farming by a bunch before they get to a move, but I over farm by one too many, and they're able to get to the Frenzy Plant, so I'm forced to shield that. But I would rather shield a Frenzy Plant from Superior than shield a Moonblast from the Carbink anyway. But what I'm hoping here is hoping for an attack debuff. I'm going to go for the one Mirror Shot, even shields up. Thankfully, we do get lucky with the debuff. Not something that happens very often, but thankfully in this game it did happen. And then Deoxys can come in, and I just need to counter enough times to get this thing low enough where a couple of Psycho Boosts might be able to knock out. And I'm going to let Deoxys get as low as possible. I also recognize that one Frenzy Plant would be the hardest hitting move left in the game, I think. So I'm going to go ahead and shield that with the Deoxys. We're going to go for the Psycho Boost. The opponent swaps into their Carbink. Now things are a little bit risky here. The opponent has a lot of energy on this Carbink. They also have some HP, and I don't think they have any energy on the Superior, though. We're going to just dump both these Psycho Boosts because my switch clock is not up yet. My opponent actually knows it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get up to the back-to-back Mirror Shots, and then we're going to fire one off right after the opponent fires off this Moonblast. I don't remember how much energy they have, but I know that since they threw the Moonblast, they're not going to be able to go for a Rock Slide right away. So we're able to take advantage of that, go for the Mirror Shot. The opponent lets it go, trying to put their faith into the Superior, but we were just 1 volt switch away from back-to-back Mirror Shots. We're going to fire these both off, and that's going to be a good game here. Very close one, but again, the power of Shadow Magnezone backed up by these two teammates cannot be underestimated. And, I mean, this team, if I put some thought and dedication into this team and played more sets, I might be able to hit Legend or come close to it with how strong this team feels like it is. So I hit 2761 in this video. I did a couple sets afterwards. I'm up in the just under 2800 now. A couple of 3-2s after the video recording. But thank you all very much for watching. Hopefully this team, you know, if you try it out, hopefully it helps you. Again, really strong team. Cannot really recommend it enough. So hopefully you guys do well with it. Thank you very much for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.